Hello again, y'all. Welcome back. I'm Shayna Cersei, and I'm so excited to paint with you today. We're going to do another page in our watercolor journals, and today we're going to do some flowers. I have a whole bunch of cowslip flowers that are popping up all over my garden. I did not plant them. Previous homeowners planted them. And they come back every year, and there's a ton of different colors. There's small little flowers that we're going to draw out a couple here, and then we're going to paint them in this variety of colors. So we have magentas and yellows and oranges, and they're just quite beautiful with lots of hardy little greenery. So that's what we're going to do today. All right, so I'm going to draw some of these out. I will probably add some more freehand. So they are, if you look at them in real life, they're about the size of maybe a quarter, maybe a little bit smaller. And they have just lots of little petals, and their petals have lots of variation in color. They overlap. They're kind of a wonky little petal like this. But they're like kind of what you would think of when you draw like just a simple flower or representation of a flower, are these big petals that kind of go all around. And then within the petals, you'll see there's lots of, like, usually they're two-toned, they're really bright color in the middle, and they graduate to like a darker color on the edges. Actually, that's not true, because I have yellow ones that are orange, darker orange in the middle, and they're brighter yellow on the outside. So they're just a really fun little flower. So this is a front-facing one. We're also going to look at what it would look like. Let's see if it was kind of 3/4 facing you. So I'm going to draw an oval like this. So it's facing this way. So this would be like the back of the flower. So kind of like a cone. So the center is also going to be an oval like that. And then the petals, these ones here are going to be shorter. And these ones further away are going to be longer. And this is how we do kind of show foreshortening. So that one's facing that way. Let's do a couple on the side. I'll do another one over here. And for this composition, I am just kind of filling. I'm going to fill in the space in kind of a organic little spray, I guess. I didn't really think about it ahead of time, as I should have. So let's do a side view. Of these. And they do have a little kind of green. So let's do a couple more side views. Do another one up here. That. All right, I'm going to fill in a lot with greenery too, because it has a lot of hardy, like little greens around it. Let's see. I feel like I have to do a couple more. Maybe one here overlapping, the side view one. Do another one kind of facing upward like this. And they grow in these little clusters, these patches. I'm very grateful for all of the plants that the previous owners planted that are perennials, so they come up every year, year after year after year. And I'm going to do another one facing kind of upward, but we see a little bit more of the inside of it. There we go. I think that's good. All right, we have lots to paint now, and we can always fill in more later, but again, putting in lots of greenery will be key to this as well. All right, so I'm going to bring in my kneaded eraser. Kneaded erasers are great. You can definitely find, I have to double check now, links to these in the description. This is a great tool to have if you are watercolor painting. So kneaded erasers do a great job of just picking up the graphite off the page rather than actually destroying part of the page in order to remove the graphite, which a traditional rubber erasers do. And you can rub it, you can roll it, you can just rock it over top like that. All right, so let's go over supplies and materials. So obviously I used a number 2 pencil. Here, traditional standard Ticonderoga, best number 2 pencils for taking a standardized test. So a pencil, kneaded eraser for this first part. I'm painting in my Bao sketchbook, watercolor book. I'm using my Core paints, QOR by Golden, but whatever brand you have will work just great. I just love Core. What else? Oh, and I have a couple of different brushes here. I have my Princeton's Velvet Touch brushes. Again, whatever round brushes you have. I have a 4, a 6, and a 10 here, just to give me some different sizes. I'll probably stick with the 6 and the 4 mostly on this because they're pretty small spaces, but my leaves will probably do with the size 10. They're a little bigger. So the leaves are kind of like oval shaped like this. They're a little kind of fatter. And they just are in these little tiny, almost like bush-like, not bush-like, that would be, but there's lots of them. And so you can draw them in, you can just paint them in. I'm drawing in a few just to kind of save space. All right, so that's enough drawing. Okay, so now I have to lighten these up as well. So let's get into some colors. So I am going to mix these colors a little bit. Normally the whole clump of them will be all the same kind of color. And then I have several little clumps of them throughout the yard, and then those clumps are all different. So some of them are yellow and orange, some of them are magenta, dark magenta and light magenta, some of them are orange and magenta, so they're all these really beautiful colors. So first let's start with, I'm going to start with a magenta color. So I have Quinacridone magenta here, and I'm also going to use Diarylide yellow to get our yellow color, which is a very warm yellow. And then when you mix these two together, you get a really nice orange, like that. Or you could use an orange right out of your palette. So I also have this transparent Pyrrol orange, like that. All right, so let's get started. So the magenta version of these flowers, they actually are yellow in the center, and then they have like a tiny little white line. I'm going to leave the center completely open. So first I'm going to paint in you can do this as controlled or as loose as you want. So you could do this wet on wet and just drop in color and let it be really loose. I'm going to do a slightly more controlled version. Just going to smooth out these edges. and it's almost like pointed at the top like a star. And then magenta on the edges. Blend these down. So basically I just put a little magenta on the edge and then I blended it towards the center, and then if I need a little more I can just drop it in wet on wet. While everything is still wet, we can punch up that contrast and just let it blend in. And then for the very center, they have like a tiny little kind of green tint to it. So I'm using a little sap green. So I'm going to put in sap green around the edge here, and then a little yellow right in the middle. Leave a few little highlights. So there's one. And let's do a couple. So it's going to be the same thing kind of on the side. So this one is on its side. It's going to have the color along the side. Try to keep the yellow a little bit smaller on this one. A little more controlled. And magenta, darkest along the edges. Kind of like outlining it, but then coming back in right away with a damp brush. My brush has water on it, but not a lot. It's not like spilling out onto the page. And then just blending these together. And since this one is on its side, we see like the little connecting green part. I'm going to drop that in as well. And then I'm going to let that dry. I might come back in and, whoops. I'm going to let that dry, and then I'm going to come back in and maybe add a few more details with the brush or with a smaller brush, but let's let that dry and move on. All right, let's do a couple. So 1, 2, 3. Let's do one more magenta and yellow. We'll do this one here. So this, you're only going to see this bit of yellow. It's going to be really thin because it's flat and on its side, so we don't see a lot of it. But then like here, we're going to see all magenta because we're just seeing the side and top of those petals. And then around the back, And then let's put in that center, a little bit of green in there, and yellow. And then also this one, we're going to see a little bit of this green piece down here. All right, so let's move on to a different color combination. I'm going to do yellow and orange. And this one, the orange is on the edges and the yellow's in the center. But you can probably do it the opposite way, orange in the center, yellow on the edges. So for this one, I'm gonna start with the orange on the edges and then add the yellow. And I am using this transparent Pyrrol orange. You can mix them if you want to mix your magenta and your yellow. Do my edges. And I'm gonna grade it out, blend it out. Rinse your brush off from time to time so that it's not all one flat color. You want to get this kind of glowy, light orange part. All right, and now I'm going to come back in with the yellow. Right around the center. And actually, you know what? For these, I think I'm going to use I've already done it here. I already used the Diarylide yellow, the warm yellow, but for another one, I'm going to use a cadmium yellow and see how we like that better. Just grade it out that way. Definitely a little touch of green in here in the center. With some yellow. Okay. Oh, that's so pretty. And you can see I leave a little bit of white space every once in a while. Let's do this again. Let's do this again, but try to use that brighter yellow color. The cadmium yellow medium. It's a medium hue. You can hear me rinsing off my brush. I have a little paper towel to dab, so I'm not bringing back, I'll bring it over here. So I'm not bringing back in too much water. So rinse my brush, I always dab it. You know, I don't dry the whole thing off. Some people, they struggle with like how much to dab off. Too little or too much, and that just takes practice, kind of getting to know the medium. And then I'm going to put some pure color right on the edges. All right, so let's use that brighter cadmium yellow in the center. I think that will work better for this. And this I got a little carried away with a lot of paint. I'm gonna pull a little bit out, but still super fun. Let's put a little more orange over here. Still fun, gets that really glowy effect. A little bit of green. And again, we're going to come back maybe with a little more detail. You can leave it loose and leave everything kind of just like this. But I think I'm going to come back with a smaller brush and some more details. So I'm going to go ahead and finish up. I have 1, 2, 3, a couple more of these flowers that we're going to do the same way. And then we'll come back for details. But I think I'm going to speed up that process a little bit. Because it will take a little while, and then we'll come back and do leaves and some more details in the flowers if you want to add them. Okay. All right, we're back. Let's put in some of our leaves. We can use sap green. I'm going to use maybe a little green gold just to have another green color. You could always just put sap green with yellow, your cadmium yellow. Just a couple of varieties. I'm going to put down a lighter color first. And drop in darker. I'm actually going to bring in and I'm just following the outlines that I put in already, but I'm going to definitely add some more. And then the underside of some of these I didn't add in before. So let's throw in to these lighter areas some other color. I'm painting these really loose. And then we're also going to have to go a little darker. So I'm going to use some Payne's Gray. That was a lot of Payne's Gray. And sap green. And get even darker kind of down in the areas that would be between the plants. Like further down in the ground. And just kind of keep adding. Let's see, I want to go a little lighter over here. Let's get that yellowy green color. right off the edge. Just kind of dabbing in this like dense part in the middle. Just dabbing in this darker color. I'm not worried about making it perfect leaf shapes, but more like, you know, greenery down in the ground, all overlapping. You can't really tell where anything begins or ends. There we go. All right, so if I could stop shaking the camera. I'm also going to go in with my smaller brush. So this is my size 4. So into some of these areas, I'm going to go in and add some details. To kind of the edges of some of the leaves or the petals. Some little contour lines. You don't have to do this. They looked perfectly lovely already. And this part can trip you up if you're too heavy-handed with your color. And maybe put it in too many spots. I'm just popping it into a few, not on every petal. I'm gonna go with the orange, do the same thing. Just where some of the petals overlap, just creating a shadow or darker area. You want to avoid trying to do like a perfect outline. You do want to blend them out. And then around the centers, I'm also going to give, especially these lighter ones kind of facing towards us, I'm going to bring in some of this darker green. Around the edges. We are going to blend that out just because I want to give it a little shadow, like a little button center. It's going to have darker edges as it kind of recedes into the flower. And where it's attached, where the petals are attached. These other ones are fine. This got a little carried away, but it actually just looks like a nice little shadow on the petal there. All right, I think I'm done. You can keep playing. You could add in with this brush some more just green vegetation in here or details on some of the leaves, but I'm just going to leave it. This was fun. I love painting these little flowers. They're so bright and beautiful and definitely add lots of dimension to the yard outside. So thanks for painting with me. I'm Shayna Cersei. Don't forget to check out the description of the video for links to supplies and materials. Leave a comment, like and subscribe to the channel, as well as, I feel like I'm forgetting to tell you to do so. Oh, thank you to my super thanks contributors. You guys are awesome. And I appreciate all that you do for me. So thank you, thank you, thank you. All right, y'all, take care, and I will see you for our next watercolor journal page very soon.